Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Zach's Journal for BSA. So this week, it's been a good week actually. I'm very happy with the way this week turned out. A lot of good stuff happened this week. On Monday, we went into Lou Papillon's class and we did our usual warm-ups. Then after the warm-ups were all done, we moved on to different energies and how to act through different energies. With the different energies, what you're doing, instead of saying, how is my character feeling right now, you picture energies like burners on a stove. If you have like an angry energy, so you turn on the burner on that energy and that kicks off what's going on in your character's head, their body movements, things like that. There's anger, there's fear, there's joy, and then there's all sorts of different energies, and that's a very cool way of looking at acting, actually. I kind of liked it quite a bit. And after Lou introduced us to all of these different energies, we went around the room and played. Just played. She would say which energy she wanted us to do, and then we would fully embody that as quick as we possibly could, and then she'd just switch between energies. After her class was over, we moved on to Francoise. I kind of enjoy Francois' class and kind of don't. It's a lot of breathing exercises, and the breathing exercises are supposed to help solidify your voice, relax your body, and all sorts of different things to do. Not really much to talk about in that class. It's just a class, to me anyway. Stage combat. I absolutely love doing stage combat. We're on swords and daggers, as I had mentioned earlier. We're actually getting quite the pattern of movement going. So we point our rapier at the non-sword side of the person opposite us. They will step back. We will step forward. They will block it with their dagger. We will go underneath the handle of the dagger to the other side. They will step back. We will step forward. They will block it with their rapier. We will go underneath the handle of the rapier to the inner thigh. They will then flip their rapier over and block it out that way. We will then go up and over the back handle of their rapier to their other thigh, and they will block it with their dagger. It's a very cool set of moves to do, and we've been practicing that. We're not fast at it yet, but it's still fun. It's technically sword fighting. Then we moved on to workbook class with Alex. We kind of just talk about how the week's going, the previous weeks and whatnot, because it's an every other week class. And the general consensus is everybody in the group is really happy right now. We all respect each other. We all like each other. We don't feel like there's any weak links in the class. And when some people are having a bad time, somebody else will pull them out of it. It's quite interesting and cool, actually. I've had a few bad times myself. Somebody else has pulled me out of it. Other people have had bad times. We've worked to pull them out of it. So it's a really nice, easygoing group of people. Hopefully it stays this way for the rest of the time here. I would really like to avoid confrontation for the entire 2 years that we're here. And then we move on to Tuesday, and again we had Lou Papillon, and this is period movement. And this week it was Jared and my turn to present our group project. And I'm going to go ahead and put up the address here on the bottom of the screen. So you can go to that address and you'll see the website that we created about gentlemen's clothing of the Elizabethan era. It's very in-depth. It even has all of the laws written for the time about clothing. It's very cool. Jared did most of the research on the project, and I set up the website. I did a little bit of the research because I didn't want him to have to do the whole thing. So Jared did everything up to the court, and I did the countrymen, and then we both went back and forth on the presentation. Then we moved on to Ben's singing class, technical singing for individual songs. And this week I didn't get to do my song because I did it the first week, but I did get to listen to some other people do theirs, and I love this theory that we're doing. I wish I could remember the name of it. There's things like thyroid tilt, soft palate lift, and anchoring your neck and your back to give yourself more sound. There's I think 13 different things that you do to fine-tune your instrument and to get it to produce the loudest sounds and to get the higher notes and whatnot. So it's really cool to see somebody struggling just a little bit on something. Nobody's bad at the singing in here. Somebody might be struggling just a little bit on it. Ben will pick up on it, walk over to them. Okay, I need you to do this. You're gonna plant yourself and you're gonna bite down on an apple and now sing your song. And then all of a sudden, boom, The notes are hit, they sound beautiful. It's so weird to see a change that quickly. Then we went on to a 3-hour break because our period dance teacher was out of town this week. Then we went back for more singing. This time it was ensemble singing. Well, we did a song from the Mikado, and then we did a song from Songs for a New World, which is a Jason Robert Brown musical. He did The Last 5 Years, The Bridges of Madison County, and Honeymoon in Vegas. Now, the thing about the ensemble singing class is there's a couple people who don't know how to read sheet music, and I kind of know how to read sheet music. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, but I just don't know the exact notes when I try and read it. I can tell about where a note's going to be, but I never can just like sight read sheet music. But there's other people just have no idea how to do it at all. They can't find the place, like when we change pages and whatnot. You know, we told Ben about that, and he isn't listening. He just keeps right on going. He doesn't want to teach anybody how to read sheet music. But the ensemble singing that we're doing sounds great. I'm really enjoying it, but other people not so much. And then the final class for Tuesday was RP with Phillida. Her classes right now are really just the phonetics, really. She's teaching us different phonetics, like the different sounds and whatnot. We haven't really gotten into doing much talking in RP, and when we do, most of the time she's just like, oh, just a minor tweak. She'll give us something very minor to fix. That's up to Tuesday. On Wednesday, we had acting with Alex. Aubrey and I had been working on our scene for a while, and I had mostly memorized it. She actually had it well enough that she didn't miss a line, so that was nice. I missed like one towards the end, and if Alex had given me the chance to really think about it, I probably would have been able to pull the line out of the air. This kind of bothered me, actually. When I missed the first line, he would just start following along, and every time I paused, whether it was because I missed the line or I needed to think about it a little bit, he would just immediately give it to me. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, is when somebody doesn't wait for you to call line, because you need to be able to pull that line out of your head, otherwise you're not going to remember it. Having somebody feed you the line instantly doesn't help. That was a little annoying, and so I wasn't able to bring back the rest of the monologue after that point, but it was only like 4 more lines until the end of the monologue anyway, so it really wasn't that big a deal. There was one other person at least, I'm not going to name names, but this person was unable to get really any of their lines. Alex is just, boom, this is the line, boom, this is the line, boom, this is the line. And afterwards, he starts talking to the person, and he's like giving them acting tips, and how could he possibly know what their acting was when they didn't really have anything to go off of? They didn't have their lines, so how were they actually acting? Which, I don't blame the person for not knowing their lines. I'm sure that person really did study it and probably had them at one point, but then when Alex was feeding them lines, they just gave up. That's exactly how I felt, to be honest. Alex, since you're watching this, I really hope you're not offended by that. It's just my personal opinion. Alex gave Aubrey and I some interesting advice. He really wanted us to know the meaning of each and every word, so I have to figure out how to do that properly. Not upset or sad or angry about it in any way, it's just something I have to learn. You see, the way I see this is Alex is like a wine connoisseur. He drinks good wine, and he knows good wine, and he can't stand bad wine. Whereas me, I'm like, I drink barefoot, and I'm used to that taste, and so that's what I like to drink. Whereas if you hand me good wine, I often go, I don't know that that was good wine, if that makes sense. And so I need Alex to teach me how to be a better wine connoisseur. I hope that's a good analogy. Moving on, we had another movement class. This one was all about balance. I have the worst balance in the world, probably because I'm overweight and don't really try to balance very often, so it was a very difficult class for me to go into, and I would try my hardest, but just didn't quite measure up to the way I needed to. It wasn't a big deal. I'm doing my best. It's gonna help in the long run, so I just keep chugging along. And finally, we get back into the acting workshops with As You Like It. And this week was awesome because we finally got our cast. On Wednesday, we got our cast. I know who I am, I know who everybody else is, and I think everybody's at least happy about it, semi-happy about it. I know I'm happy with my characters, even though I'm not the lead or a lead. I've got a lot of lines. I've got 3 different characters. I'm happy with what I got. I got Touchstone, who's my main character. He's the clown. You can kind of think of Touchstone as like a stand-up comedian of the time. Not really so much a fool, but he can speak his mind and not get in trouble for it. And then I have Charles the Wrestler, which I'm really hoping David lets me go all out for. I would love to do like a Macho Man Randy Savage impression. Doing Macho Man Randy Savage in Shakespearean text would just be amazing. And then my final one is Lord Number 1, which really there's only one Lord that has lines now because of the way David cut it, and so that would be me. He's in the Countrymen group, the band of merry men, really. He talks to Duke, who has been banished into the woods. They're kind of hippie-ish a little bit. What we did for the rest of the week in David's class is we actively analyzed each of the scenes, and we gave them a whole bunch of context in a modern text, really. And so what we would do is we would go Act 1, Scene 1, which starts out with Orlando, Adam, and Oliver, and Orlando basically demands his inheritance from Oliver. And then after Oliver tells him he'll get what's coming to him, I enter as Charles the Wrestler, and I go up to Oliver, warn him that Orlando is going to attempt to wrestle me, to best me, to try and prove himself a man. And I also give a little bit of context about how Duke Ferdinand banished Duke Frederick to the woods, and that's kind of important. But I mean, that's kind of the general gist of the scene. But then we would act it out. You'd have Robert, who plays Orlando, come into the scene with September, who plays Adam, and he talks to Adam and says, "Oh, I want my inheritance." Oliver, played by Jared, would come into the scene, and Jared did a fantastic job of every time Orlando would say something like, "Oh, you owe me my money," then Jared would be like, "Well, why should I give it to you? It's my job to say when you're a man, and I don't think you're really a man." Jared did a really good job with that. I actually felt more for Jared's character than I did for Robert's character in that situation. I mean, it's kind of the gist of the scene. And we did that with every single scene, all the way up through Act 3. So we're doing Act 4 on Wednesday this coming up week. And everybody had a lot of fun with those. I think my favorite portion is working with Aubrey, who plays Audrey. That's one of my Touchstone scenes. Aubrey and I run into the scene. Basically, I talk to her about possibility of her losing her virginity, try and trick her into getting married to me so that we can have sex. And that's kind of the whole basis of Touchstone and Audrey's relationship, is that they want to have sex with each other. It's pretty cool. So that was Wednesday and Thursday. We played a whole bunch of games in these times too. So like before we would start the day, and then after lunch we would play games. The games were pretty fun. We did Big Booty, and then Emily came up with a game, and Aubrey came up with a game, and we played a whole bunch of different games that were really fun. David is such a big kid when it comes to these games, especially Big Booty. He absolutely loves playing Big Booty, and he's just this big kid who gets into it. It's really cute and adorable. He's kind of like one of the family, like with our group. It's really great. So last but not least, we move on to Friday. And again, we had David in the morning for Friday. More active analysis. We went all the way up to Act 3 that day. And then we moved on to acting through song with Carrie. We had to show her our folk songs this week, which I hadn't learned the lines for yet. And so I kind of just had to read them off of the paper. I printed out the sheet music for it, but it ended up being the wrong sheet music. I didn't think that it could be different than what I had heard online, and so I didn't bother to really read the sheet music to figure out if it was different. And so the music that I wanted to sing started out with "Come with me, O Sean O'Farrell," and the one that I printed out went "Come with me, O Sean O'Farrell." It was really weird, but I didn't know it, so I didn't bother to sing it that way, so I had to do it a cappella. One person didn't have theirs at all, but the other 2 people sang their songs, and they were both pretty good. It's going to be interesting to see everybody's folk songs that are really old. And then the last part of the day was Simon's class, which I still have yet to enjoy these classes. I get what their purpose is, but it's difficult to figure out in the moment what he's wanting you to do. And when you do it wrong, even though he's really nice about it, it still just feels like crap. So, I mean, I don't think there's anything that the guy can do about it to change how it makes you feel, but like when he says you're wrong, you're wrong. And what's really bad about the whole thing is it's very meditative, the class. Like, we're supposed to lay on the ground and then, like, look at a line and close our eyes and read the line. And it's supposed to be meditative, and you're supposed to really focus on each and every individual word. And I get that, but it's not for me. I'm not a meditation type of guy. I'm an entertainment seeker. I hate just sitting there and being with my own thoughts. But the weekend has been pretty good. We went and saw The Seasons of Sarwana. That was absolutely fabulous. Everybody was awesome in it. The set was amazing. You really felt like you were a part of it. It was a black box theater, a studio, really. You were really close to the action, even though I had this great big bald head in my field of vision the entire time, having to try and move around it. I still felt like a part of the show. The woman that played Sarwana was amazing, and Chris was really good as her lover. Like, starts out as a bad guy and then moves into falling in love with her. It was a great show. That was my week. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.